Hello, my name's Rob, this is Cat on Rabbit Scale Model Studios, and today I thought I'd put together a little video on wet blending. Recently I painted up some Kernoff Hunters, something that I've already wanted to do for a while now, and I went for kind of like a yellowy golden autumn theme, but I had wet blended all of the kind of spiky thorny bits and swords. And then when I looked online, I couldn't really see a dictionary definition of what wet blending really was. So I thought, okay, I'll put together a little video and just kind of, in my own words, you know, not so much an expert, and I'm sure there's probably better videos that will relate to other people and their needs. But this is mine in my words on what exactly wet blending is and how to achieve it. It's effectively just mixing paint together and blending it while it's wet. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. So to start with the process, I'm actually going to show you today on a really cool tool, something I really enjoy, a plastic spoon. Much like a bit of sprue, which I'll use from time to time to test colours on. These are, you know, 3 bits of test material that GW kindly gives us, or whoever you get your model kits from. But I like using the backs of spoons. It's a nice flat area, it's got a bit of curvature to it, and yeah, it takes paint just like anything else. So all I've done here is, using the colours that I'm going to go with today, which are reds and yellows, I've primed this with Citadel's Xantry Dust Spray. And the colours I'm going to use are all Citadel, is Tuscal Fur, Jacaro Orange, and Avalanche Sunset. These are the same colours I used for my Kernoff Hunter to achieve the effect, and I like the way this looks. So to start with, I do everything on a wet palette. If you're not using a wet palette, use plenty of water with your mixes. It's going to keep the paint nice and wet, and the key is in the title, wet blend. We want our paint nice and wet, and we want it to be usable for as long a period as we can have. So all I do is I take my paints, I give them a good shake. Always shake your paints. And I get a good bit on my wet palette. You can add a little bit of water to each of these. It won't really make too much of a difference. The wet palette will do its job. If you're not using a wet palette, once again, do add a couple of drops of water. The brush I'm using is an old battered thing I got from a pound shop. It's got a really nice handle, very much like the army painter brushes. So it's got a nice chunky grip, which I do quite like actually. But it's hooked and it's, you know, well used. So all I do is start with, I dip my brush in the water, I put it into the paint and I start layering it on. Obviously the runnier the paint, obviously you're not going to get as an opaque of finish or a solid finish as you'd like, but I just make sure everything's coated. Obviously I am using the back of a spoon. This tends to be quite a big area as opposed to some of the models we work with, so I am trying to work a little bit quicker than usual, just making sure I've got plenty of paint that's even and that it looks like it's got a good coat. Then all I do, same again, I put my brush in the water, then I go for the orange. Where I want my transition, I just start working it towards the end, making sure that I'm, you know, happy with how I want it. And then all I do is add a little bit of water to your brush. Using the orange, all I do is I then just mix that line between that Tuscal Fur and that Jacaro Orange. And all I'm doing is mixing those colours into each other while on the spoon. you can go back to colours. So I've gone back to Tusk or Fur here because I probably wasn't happy with the transition. And then all I do is I'm mixing that into the mix. It's very much a Bob Ross type of thing here. You just try and have a little bit of fun with it. As long as the paint's wet, you'll have plenty of time to do this. So same type of thing on the yellow. I've gone, yellow at the end here. So you've got that nice orange middle. And then all I do is I just mix it into it. Going back to the orange. Until I'm happy with the transition. So I added a bit more yellow to the tips there just to brighten it up, and then I effectively mix the yellow into yellow. And that's basically the process. It's not complicated, and you can do this with as many colours as you want, or as little colours as you want. It's a really quick and easy way to get a transition. And there we go. So here I'm actually just giving it a bit of a blast with a hairdryer off screen. I always keep a little hairdryer just on hand to make drying times a little bit quicker. And what you can actually see here is it does lose its kind of high shine as it dries. The effect you're left with. It's really quick, it's really easy to do. Anyone can pick up stuff like this, and I think it's important to state that sometimes we hear all these terms being used on the internet, like high saturation and contrast, pushing this and that, but really I've never been that smart of an individual to say this is what it is. I only go for what I think looks cool as a very average painter, and I think this gives a really good effect, and I think it's really doable by a lot of hobbyists that maybe are a little bit intimidated by the terminology of things sometimes. We overcomplicate things. Here, what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going over the same effect again, just to show you how easy it is. You can do this if you're not happy with the transitions, or maybe you want a little bit of depth somewhere else. Or a more solid colour. There's no reasons to say that you can't kind of go over it a few times. When you apply paints this thinly, they tend to have a very translucent finish to them. So if anything, all you're doing is you're making the final product a lot more solid and a lot more, I guess a really good way of saying it is a confident blend. Which is, it's what we all go for. You get a nice creamy transition, and like I said, it's just so easy to do. I would recommend everyone give this a go. You don't always have to have a model on hand. Sometimes you can, like I said, use a bit of sprue. How many models do we have that are built 2 or 3 different ways? I'm sure you've got an arm spare or something. It doesn't necessarily need to make sense. You can just, have a bit of fun with it. And I think that's one thing I've always enjoyed about the painting aspect, is just having fun with it. And I've always liked working stuff out for myself. Wet blending is something that I use more and more these days because it is such an easy method to do, and it really does. You kind of sell that fact of being like a pro painter, but you're showing off a little bit of flair here, and it can really add something to your models. This is really good for things like doing power swords and bits like that, but use it where you need to or what you want. There's the finished article. It's got a nice smooth blend into everything. I think the section I actually painted up was about 2 minutes long. So yeah, I hope this helps. Hope you enjoy it. If you're still here, thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you next time.